Welcome to Jersey Mat Chat.
15 years ago, Champion Athletes was established to help athletes perform better through better nutrition. And we do that by creating an individualized nutrition plan for each person that we work with to maximize their body composition and make them feel their best, both in training and in competition. So Champion Athletes offers individualized nutrition programs for each client that we work with. We start off by having them fill out a questionnaire about their eating habits, what they like, what they don't like, and how their family eats, as well as their goals. We go over the questionnaires, we get to know each other, and then we do a body composition analysis where we measure their muscle mass, their body fat, and then we build a customized meal plan just for them. And our meal plans look like menus, so they're easy to follow. They include a grocery list, and they're based around that family's eating habits. And then we support all of our clients through texting. So in between our appointments, which are about every 4 to 6 weeks, our clients text us their weight, let us know how they're feeling, how their energy is, and we make sure they're progressing towards their goals in between each appointment. If you're looking to bring your performance to the next level, you should look at your nutrition, and Champion Athletes would be happy to help you do that.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of New Jersey Mat Chat. To my right, we got the legendary Jimmy Lawson from Manchester High School and Penn State University. Jimmy, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you. You're the first installment of our Legend series, and no better man to sit in the seat for our installment of that. So we're going to talk wrestling. We're going to chat. Not everyone that watches our podcast are familiar with all of our guests, especially the younger kids. They don't really know who's who. Mm-hmm. What we're trying to do is we're going to teach them who's who, and we're going to bring on guys that can, give their insight on their experiences in the past. And you guys have led the way for the current kids now, and there was men before you that led the way for you. So this is what it's all about, a full circle kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So we're going to get it started. You were Manchester High School. You were, I'm trying to use quick math. You graduated in 2010?
2010.
2010, okay. You were a hammer. You were a 3-time state champion, and you didn't just beat guys, you destroyed them for the most part. You had a hell of a career. So my question to you is, to kick things off, is, were you always a big guy?
So the funny thing is, yes, I was always a big guy. Just to answer the question simply, I remember growing up, I never was able to play Pop Warner football. So my father, found some opportunities for me to play in this PAL league that was in Bricktown. You guys are familiar with Mike Kiley and maybe Billy Miller,
yes.
Two great wrestlers for Brick Memorial, yes. But we all played a part of that same PAL league, and we ended up winning a state title. We played all the schools from up north, and that's kind of how I ended up getting into wrestling, because a lot of those guys from Bricktown were big into wrestling. Yeah. So, I found out about wrestling my 8th grade year, and, You
didn't wrestle before?
No.
Really? Okay, interesting. All right. So back in those days, Manchester, so were you being recruited to go to a non-public back then, or how did that work out?
I mean, yeah, there was a few schools that knew about me definitely for football. Wrestling, I had 1 year. I had potential, but I hadn't really shown anything. I had schools like Jackson Memorial and North that wanted to take a chance at me, coming there and, doing the different things that they do for recruiting. St. John Vianney was one of the schools. There was a few other schools, but, back then the times were a little bit different. Traveling far wasn't really a thing for me and my family. And ultimately, the decision to go to Manchester came down to the fact that I had a lot of family there. And, it just so happens around the time I decided to go to Manchester, there were some great older guys that were around the program that made everything comfortable for me to stay and win titles there.
Now, back in those days, was Manchester considered an athletic powerhouse in any sport? Football, wrestling, whatever, baseball, anything?
They've always had standout athletes over the years, but I wouldn't say they were a powerhouse. Kids that came from Manchester, I would hope you have that type of chip on your shoulder that gives you that fuel, being that you have such great dynasties around you. You got the Howells, the Jacksons, even Long Branch was a powerhouse back then. North was great in football. So you just had all these great schools in the Shore Conference that were doing great things for their school, their township and everything. And, being in Manchester, I would say that's always something that lit a fire into me, knowing that, not many people thought much of the town and the kids that came from it. Not in a disrespectful way, but, like I said, we weren't really producing, winning titles like that.
I understand. Okay. So football player, that's a given. Now, what coach or which coach had the most impact in developing Jimmy Lawson as a wrestler?
I'm forever grateful to Robert Picton.
Robert Picton.
Yeah, he was my first coach in middle school. I wasn't a bad kid. I got good grades, but I was a little chunky then. And, this was before I got into a real weightlifting program, and, different kids would try to pick with me, but I always had a lot of heart. So I would get into fights all the time. Like I said, I'd get OSS, ISS, great student, but just couldn't stop using my hands.
Typical teenager.
Like yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And, one day he just pulled me out of the hallway or out of the ISS room and told me, like, yo, you got a lot of potential and there's a lot of great things you could do with your life if you just channel that anger and you focus on something great instead of something that's negative. And that really stuck with me. That year I went out for the 8th grade wrestling team. I had a lot of success early, but of course I lost to one of my teammates, Billy Miller, back then. And I wasn't, I had a lot of success early. The way he beat me was enough to motivate me to get better over the course of that year. And, it was just something I decided to stick with. Okay.
So at that time, you probably knew a power half. You probably knew an elbow roll.
I probably didn't know half that stuff. Honestly, what came down to me was just effort and tenacity. Our football team was very good. We were playing all these inner city schools, but, a whole bunch of kids from the Pinelands went and beat those kids up north. And they had a lot of players that I'm sure went on to play big schools. I can't name any right now, but that type of mentality is just something that drove into wrestling. And like right off the bat, I was good at scrambling. I had good leg defense, and my mindset was I wasn't going to let anyone bully me on the mat. The technique came after that.
Did your mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, aunt, uncle, anybody in your family good athletes?
Yeah, my dad and his brothers were all great athletes for Lakewood. They were all tri-state athletes, played basketball, football, baseball, growing up. So football was definitely something that we all that's big in our family. Like a lot of my family Steelers fans. I became an Eagles fan, but we also had the Philly station. It was a lot easier to catch the Eagles games back in the day. And I was, like I said, I was a chunky kid. I loved chunky soup. Donovan McNabb was the man back then. So, it was easy for me to generate towards that. And, it paid off. We ended up having 2 Super Bowls. So, football's always been big in my life.
Yeah, because athleticism is apparent with you. So that's obviously, you were blessed with some genetic, someone passed that down to you, obviously. Mm-hmm. All right, so you get to Manchester freshman year. This is prior to just dominating. So I don't remember hearing about you during your freshman year. So that was still kind of getting acclimated to the sport, wrestling, of course. Mm-hmm.
So what really put me on the scene, I think, was we did a summer tournament. This was my freshman year, and Drew Doyle, I was an 8th grader coming into high school, and he was a junior going into a senior year, and everyone knows, he ended up being in the state finals. I think it was against Zach Ray, took in second, but he had an amazing tournament that year. Anyways, his coaches come up to me, and they come up to my coach and ask my dad, is like, are you guys okay? Because I guess they knew about me from a couple of the other tournaments. They asked if it would be okay if he wrestled me, being I was an 8th grader. He was a junior in high school. Of course, I jumped at the opportunity to wrestle an older kid. This type of mentality you got to have. And, my parents and my coaches were behind me, and we ended up wrestling him, and I ended up losing in like double overtime. Even though it was a loss, it was something that built my confidence, especially even more after seeing him, the way he competed in the state final, going on to, being eliminated my freshman year, and watching him go in the state final and compete as well as he did against Zach Ray.
Yeah, Zach Ray was, where was Zach? Remind me where Zach Ray was.
Hapatcong.
Hapatcong. Yes,
I hope I'm not butchering it. But
no, I think you are correct. Okay, so now, following year, the New Jersey wrestling world is introduced to Jimmy Lawson. Now, I'm assuming you're still playing football throughout your high school career. Mm-hmm. We'll touch back on that. But now, sophomore year, ta-da, here you are. Did you expect that kind of success so early on in your high school career?
Absolutely not. It honestly didn't even really dull on me like the potential of anything. And for me, it was just putting one foot in front of the other. What stuck with me more than anything through that hard work, through the practices, through the grind, was just the losses I took and how I didn't want to feel that feeling anymore. And, You know, I'd lost 8 times my freshman year. Those three losses hurt even more my sophomore year because I thought I had finally put it all together. But, you know, they were learning experiences, and nothing was more helpful than that loss I took to Amir Washington in the regions, because that gave me that fire to compete and eventually get a couple of those losses back I lost to from Harry Turner.
Yes, Harry Turner. Yeah. He's a Hal guy?
Yep.
Yeah. So you lost in the region finals your sophomore year.
I lost in the match, the semifinals, and I ended up wrestling for third.
In regions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that was your sophomore year?
Yes.
And then you go on and win a state title?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Now, you said you had 3 losses your sophomore year?
Yes, sir.
How many of those losses did you avenge, or if any?
I avenged 1.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to wrestle Amir Washington. The Cinnaminson kid was on the other side of the bracket, and I had lost to Harry Turner in the All-Star match earlier that year.
Gotcha. Yeah, you beat him in the state final.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you beat him in the state final. Okay, so that was your sophomore year. So did you hold back then, or you were just a straight up freshman? Did you reclass?
No, I didn't hold back or anything. So it's funny, I wrestled heavyweight all 4 years, but my freshman year, I only weighed about 205 to 210.
Okay.
So I would bounce back and forth depending on where the tougher guy was to either heavyweight or 215.
Okay. So yeah, all right. So you're not even a holdback year. So you're a 16-year-old, 15 as a sophomore. Do you remember if you were 15 or 16 when you won states your sophomore year? Do you remember?
I think I was 16.
16. Okay. 16 years old. You're state champion now. Now, did you start thinking at that point? All right, I'm a New Jersey state champion. Did you understand how tough New Jersey wrestling was at that time?
No, honestly, just I'm sure a lot of guys talk about it, but when you're in it, in that type of mode, and everything's just going, because there was no stopping.
Yeah.
It was wrestling for Team Jersey. It was doing your club stuff. You're not really taking time to process everything that's happening. I think sometimes it's good that you don't, because sometimes those moments get too heavy. For me, thankfully, my family around me, nobody wrestled in my family before me, so they weren't really adding pressure on me, and I kind of stayed to myself as a young adult in high school. I didn't really socialize. I didn't really go out or anything like that. So everything was very low key for me. Okay. And that's the way I think that's how I was able to do that.
Okay. So, silly question. Were you first team All-State in football as a sophomore?
I don't think so.
Okay. But you were state champion as a wrestler. So when did you start thinking I could wrestle in college, or I could play football in college? When did that start to occupy your mind?
I was I like to think I was a dominant football player in high school, and because Manchester never really had the success, I didn't really get the recognition I felt like I was getting for wrestling, being that it was an individual sport. But like after winning my state title as a sophomore, and then having some good wins against nationally ranked kids in those summer tournaments, I started to really look at my future as a college wrestler. But then my junior year came, and I ended up getting a letter to compete at the All-American Combine down in Texas. They sent me an invitation, and ended up being second team All-Combine for that. And, despite my height, that kind of like solidified my thought and how good I was at football. It's just, with football, I wasn't always the tallest guy. Being 6'5", 11, you're not really that big of a lineman.
Right.
To play at those levels. So Monmouth gave me an opportunity and full scholarship where my parents didn't have to pay, and that's kind of why I chose to go with them, because that was my first dream when I started playing sports.
When did your full ride offer from Monmouth occur? What year? Your junior year?
Junior year.
So that's prior to your junior wrestling season?
Yeah.
So you had a full ride locked up. Then you win another state title. So you're still thinking Monmouth football at that point?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're 2 state titles in. Now let's fast forward to your senior year. You were wrecking guys, man. Like I told you before we sat down, like I was never really, state tournament's a long weekend. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember if it was a random draw. I don't remember. I don't think it was. But I'm like, I'm going to watch Lawson win 3. Because you just tore guys up. You were fun to watch. You wrestled like a little guy. You were a badass. So, you're welcome. So I remember watching you when you're third. And I remember hearing buzz back then, like, oh, he's not going to play football. He's going to wrestle. He's going to wrestle. So I'm going to ask you, after your third state title, it was still Monmouth football.
I mean,
You had to get, the calls had to start becoming more and more for wrestling.
well, the funny thing is, after I won my national title, freestyle national title in Virginia Beach, I got the call from Cael.
Okay.
But that was during my senior year.
Gotcha.
And, you know, it was kind of late in the game. I think I had already committed to Monmouth, but it was always something in the back of my mind. And then, you know, I have a great relationship with Goody. That was also, Rutgers was always an option too. But, you know, after 2-year layoff, I had to go to Penn State to, I feel like, even have an opportunity to win a national title, even All-American.
Okay, so let's get back to Monmouth. So you actually accept the scholarship from Monmouth, and you enroll at Monmouth, and you play football at Monmouth.
Yeah, I started my freshman and sophomore year.
Okay, so now let's get back into what you just said. What started to say, football, is it because you didn't see yourself as an NFL prospect, or
It wasn't that. During that time, I felt like my focus started to waver. I started to lose myself. I was close to home. Monmouth was a great school, had a lot of great teammates, a lot of great people there that I've met over the course of my years. But I just felt like, for me, I saw myself doing more. You know, some of the losses we took there kind of made me feel reminiscent of Manchester football in terms of, you know, I feel like I haven't had that success in football since middle school. And that's ultimately what changed. And then also, you know, the rules were different then. If I were to go transfer to another school, I'd have to sit out and lose a whole year of eligibility. You know, now we know the rules are different now, but back then, sitting out and using a whole year of wasn't really realistic for me.
It's true. I forgot about that. Yeah. So listen, we had an NFL guy on here. We sat with a coach named Kevin Landolt. He played for West Virginia, and they got drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Also a heavyweight state champion in 1993, I think he was. Similar conversation. Like, you know, he basically is saying close to what you're saying. But before we move on, I'm going to ask you something. So you're 2 years into college as a football player. You already wrestled in high school. You're contemplating getting back into wrestling. What's harder, football or wrestling?
Wrestling for sure, especially being like the transition I came from. Not wrestling at all for 2 years. When I was at Monmouth, I was a true nose tackle. I weighed around 295 to 303. You know, like I said, I was the starter. So it was. I remember that sophomore year trying to cut the weight off, deciding I was going to go back to wrestling. It was. I put myself through the ringer, and then just to do all that work to get to Penn State and realize there's a whole lot of work that you still were missing, being that you were competing with the best of the best. It was definitely rough, but you know, I think something like that builds you to have an iron will, and I'm in a mindset that doesn't quit.
Oh, absolutely. So, all right, now, so what was the final deal breaker for you to leave Monmouth and go to Penn State? Talk me through that. What happened?
So, I got in. So just to be transparent, I got in trouble. In one of the semesters, not like doing anything bad, like just public intoxication.
At Monmouth?
Yeah,
Okay.
Monmouth.
Okay.
Like public intoxication.
Drinking beers, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I realized then like I had lost myself a little bit. You know, I got caught up in the partying and stuff, and you know, I was close to home. I was going home like every other weekends to see like different friends who may have stayed home and didn't go away for college. And you know, I knew I had to do something drastic to not fall off the path. You know, my grades started to slip, and like I saw these things, and it was like, regardless, I know I want to be successful in what I'm doing now. Even if I want to play, I won't be able to play because I'm not doing everything to stay eligible. And so I just need to change the scenery.
Interesting. Okay. Did the thought ever enter your mind to try to play both football and wrestling at Penn State, or is that not how it works there?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, if I would have won a national title early on before that senior year, I would have considered trying to work that with Cael in the program.
Okay.
But because, you know, wrestling's a tough sport.
Yes.
You know, not everyone could be champ. Only one every year. So for me, I just felt like I needed to put my whole heart and soul and not even think about anything else. Because I definitely, nothing else, I wasn't going to walk away from that team, that college sport without All-American, national championship, nothing. So,
Gotcha.
you know, I was also coming back from injury. So when I blew out my knee, it was really mostly just focused, locking in to get myself healthy and do what I came to set out to do here at Penn State.
Okay, so you got to Penn State and you had what, 2 years of eligibility left?
3.
3 eligibility. Okay, so you did or did not redshirt at Monmouth?
So yeah, that's something I found out too. Like when you don't redshirt, especially if it's like 2 different sports. At Monmouth, I played my freshman and sophomore year. Because I didn't redshirt at Monmouth, I had 3 years eligibility. That redshirt year, you could use it as an extra year in another sport.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so you get to Penn State. What's your first impression of Penn State when you walk on campus? What were you, 20, 21, 20?
21, 22.
Okay.
So they stuck me in a dorm room that first year, and so I was with a few younger kids on the team, but everyone treated me like family, and right away I could tell the intensity and the pride in competition and sport, and it was like something I haven't felt since those years of playing youth in Bricktown.
Yeah.
You know, being a kid that comes from a small town like Manchester, coming to a program like Penn State with that type of tradition, and you know, you talking to different people, different students whose fathers, grandfathers, grandmothers, like whole family legacy is that school, and just they have so much pride in that town in Happy Valley. It's an eye-opening experience, something that was brand new to me.
Is Cael Sanderson intimidating to talk to?
He can be if you don't know him.
How long did it take you to get to know him?
I mean,
know him.
He's been probably after the first year.
Okay.
You know, we had a lot of real conversations. Like I said, if you're not winning a national title, you're not really accomplishing the goals you set out for yourself. So, you know, early on, I had a chance to have a lot of those real conversations with him. But, you know, men building conversations, and I'm forever grateful for all the advice he's given me. And, you know, there's a reason why that program's successful year in, year out, because he's not just building wrestlers, he's building men to just be able to handle things past the wrestling mat.
Does he play like, I don't like to call them Jedi mind tricks, but listen, I think the average person that follows wrestling, there's a mystique around Cael. Mm-hmm. You don't ever hear a whole lot about him. He doesn't say much. We know he's very internal. I'm not going to say he's an introvert. I mean, you know him better than I do, but what, listen, Penn State attracts the top talent in the nation. Okay, mm-hmm. So that has a lot to do with their success. But does he challenge you mentally? Is he just a regimented kind of guy? Like what other than talent alone, what's the reason for his success, in your opinion?
I mean, the mental toughness that he instills in you. No matter your circumstances, no matter what you're going through, you can make it through. And their faith is very strong there. You know, through God, all things are possible. Yeah. You know, I live by that today. Life has been challenged at times, but I always go back to those moments I had at Penn State and those conversations I had with Cael and Coach Cunningham and Coach Casey, Coach Cody, all those coaches. Like, everybody's around, they're fully supporting you in terms of making you the best man you can be.
So that they had that much of an impact on you that you still carry that with you today?
Absolutely, because some of the toughest times of my life. I mean, you said it yourself. It's hard being part of that wrestling program and legacy, and you know, the things that you go through, you don't come out the same. You come out stronger.
How did I'm going to use Cael again as an example? How does he give me an example of where he challenged you to question yourself? Like, was there ever a time that you felt like you were underachieving or wrestling below Penn State standards, and that he had to either sit down with you, physically wrestle with you to rough you up or whatever? Did that ever occur at any time? Yeah,
absolutely. So my first year competing in the national tournament, was going decent, you know, first time having that experience wrestling that type of level, mm-hmm. being in that atmosphere. I remember, you know, having I think it was like blood rounds where I could have qualified to place, and having a bad match against a Michigan kid. And it was the first time he's ever yelled at me, but you know, he talked to me like my father in that moment, and, you know, just gave it to me straight, like, you know, you hear the kids talk about it today, like, you know, people get so caught up in focusing on what everybody else feels about you. In 10, 15 years, no one's going to care. The only thing that's going to matter is what you achieved and, you know, knowing that you did everything that you could to achieve those goals. So it's just after that year, kind of like changing my whole mindset and approach to like not really worrying about what I'm supposed to do, what people think I'm supposed to do, but just going out there and doing what I know I'm capable of doing. And, you know, I've seen my wrestling improve a lot. It just was unfortunate how my second year there, my junior year, ended because I ended up blowing my knee out against Mike Mamone. I had a great match with him, and he ended up getting in on a shot and landing on my knee, and that kind of put me out the rest of my junior year, which kept me all the way out until the following October. I see it my final year.
Okay. So what's it like wrestling at Rec Hall? Describe that for us.
The roar of the crowd when you get a takedown is
it's got to be cool. That's
gotta
be cool.
It's amazing because it's like everything's on top of you, and then it's like, especially like when we have like our whiteout nights, just seeing a crowd like that, it's crazy.
Yeah. That seems from the television perspective, it looks ridiculous. I've never been in person for a college duel. I have been in there when it was empty, but never a college duel. It looks like an incredible. It
almost feels like an unfair advantage. The one thing I'll say is like everybody that's in a Penn State singlet, whenever they wrestle in Rec Hall, I feel like they always wrestle a level above.
Yes,
like,
it does seem like that.
I've had some great upsets. A lot of my teammates who had some great upsets. A lot of guys that are not the household names, like, you know, Ed Ruth and David Taylor during that time, and you know, that's all because, like, you know, there's something different about wrestling in Rec Hall.
So did you see David Taylor becoming what he is today back then?
Absolutely. David Taylor, when I got there, he had already won a national title. Him, Ed Ruth, Quentin Wright were already like, you know, the guys. And,
bad news.
You know, just from rolling around with them, doing different drills, like inhumanly strong for guys their size. Like, you know, I'm like to think of myself as a really strong dude, one of the strongest dudes to come through that wrestling program. But like for their size, pound for pound, it was freakish. And the same thing was Bo. And I only had him for his true freshman year.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah. So you your career, you left Penn State as a NCAA Division I All-American with a 6th place finish?
Yes.
Okay, 6th place finish. Did you feel, when it was all over, when your wrestling career was over, did you feel like accomplished, like I reached my goals and my expectations, or do you feel like you wish you could do it again?
We'd never want to live with regrets. I know, you know, there's things that I, you know, would have liked to do better, but at the same time, my story is just a lesson for another kid to, you know, not make the same mistakes that I made, or, you know, be more aligned with your goals and plans. Because I know for a fact during my ride, I was just being a kid. I wanted to live out both dreams. So I was all over the place. But, you know, I can't say I have any regrets because a lot of people didn't get a chance to play football at those levels or wrestle at those levels.
I'm going to ask you another question that I'm curious about personally. If you're ever sitting on the couch with your significant other and you're, you know, enjoying some snacks and watching TV and your mind's drifting, do you think more about being a 3-time New Jersey state champ, or do you think more about being a Division I All-American?
I would say neither, to be honest with you, because it's in the past.
It is.
I'm more so excited for the future of helping grow Manchester wrestling, and also getting back to fighting. I've been out of the fight game for a few years, and yeah, I'm excited about that too.
You don't really. So as an accomplishment, I find that curious. I respect your answer. It sounds honest, but you don't reflect. You don't.
I mean, when it's in the setting of coaching setting, I always use my experiences to try to give these kids confidence and, you know, my story. You know, it was a checkered path. It wasn't a straight line. You know, there's many ways to get to where you want to get to. It's just a matter of taking the most advantage of those opportunities that you get in life. So it's not really, I don't really sit back and, I mean, I'm reminded, and I'm grateful and blessed that I was able to accomplish that stuff. But it's not something that I think about constantly.
Interesting. Okay, so before we get into your fight game, and I ask you some things about that. Do you see yourself ever being a New Jersey high school wrestling head coach at any point in your life?
Absolutely.
You do? Okay.
Absolutely. I'm starting to kind of get my feet in the water with that now. But like I said, I still think I still have some gas in the tank to compete.
Okay. All right. Now, so let's get into your fighting thing. I do know you fought. I didn't follow your fighting career the way I followed your wrestling career. So let's talk about what made you start fighting.
Funny story is in Penn State, so we have like a little commons area that we would all like lounge at before our practices and stuff. And one day, Phil Davis, he's the champ of Bellator, comes through with his camera crew, and I think I was rocking the baldy at this time. He put the camera on me and said something about me reminding him of Daniel Cormier.
Okay.
Like I guess how our stature.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah.
And that was my first time really even really paying attention to anything UFC. It was so much wrestling and football that
Interesting.
And then from there, I ended up getting a call from DC a little bit after my senior year, talking about opportunity to train. And
Well, Phil reached out to him. What happened?
well, I guess they were friends. They were friends, and somehow he got my number,
Okay.
whether it could have been through Cael or whatever. And they reached out to me to take a trip out to California to see how I liked fighting.
Really?
Yeah. At this time, I had decided I was done with the whole college process and stuff. I actually had went back to football. I did a stint in arena football, and this was like in 2016 or 17 where they called me, and I went out to California and trained with them for about a week. They ended up giving me like a contract to sign with the management group and that he was with. And I kind of ended up putting it on hold because I was still chasing that NFL dream. Fast forward to 2018, I got an opportunity with the New York Jets where I went up to Fauner Park with my parents after, trying to get in through like a arena league that whole time after I graduated. The workout went terrible for me. I remember crying on the ride home, realizing that's probably my last opportunity to make the NFL.
And this is 3 years removed from college, am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I remember crying on the ride home, realizing it's probably my last opportunity to chase football. And, I think it took me like a day or two later to call up DC, and, the rest is history. I ended up flying out to California and lived out there, and that's how I started my MMA journey.
Okay, interesting. Now, how many fights did you have?
None.
You never had a competitive sanctioned fight?
Mm-mm.
Never. Okay. So what happened when you went out to California and you were training with?
I was his main training partner.
Okay.
For one of his main training partners for that course of time. Helping him with wrestling and different things. This was like his climb to fight Stipe Miocic.
Mm-hmm.
I trained with him. I trained with Cain Velasquez.
Really?
His whole camp, his comeback up until he fought Ngannou. And, I showed promise to them, and I ended up having my fight probably like a year and change later, professional fight, no amateurs, a year and change later, and Dana White's looking for a fight.
Continue.
And
I'm listening.
and that was in Florida. That was in Miami, Florida.
Okay.
That was a whole crazy experience too. Never fighting before, no amateurs, nothing like that. In my corner was Luke Rockhold and Crazy Bob Cook. I'm looking at the announcer booth, and it's like Matt Serra, Dana White, and Kamaru Usman. So it's like to have that as a very first fight, that was a whole crazy experience in itself. So yeah,
So this was a UFC sanctioned fight?
It wasn't a UFC sanctioned fight. It was Dana White's looking for a fight. Like every summer, he does like this thing where it's like they have contender series,
Okay, yeah,
and then
yeah.
he does other events where they go around the places, like rent it out. Like for that, like it was a crazy experience. We were on like one of the Fertitta brothers yachts for the weigh-ins,
So these were like auditions, fights?
Yeah, it was basically like another Contender Series type thing.
Understand.
And I ended up fighting someone from AT&T that fight. It was a crazy experience, man. It's been a crazy journey with him.
You've done it all.
Yeah.
How old are you right now?
34.
You're 34 years old. Man, you played football, won some state titles, NCAA Division I All-American, played some arena football, hung out with Cormier, fought in front of Dana White, and I mean, boring, man. Need to get a hobby. So, you still had the itch to get back into fighting.
Yeah, I mean, my last fight wasn't the best representation of me, and the whole reason why I've kind of been out so long, I was just dealing with some injuries and stuff like that. I ended up getting married. We ended up having a child. So raising a family.
Boy or girl?
Boy.
Wrestler for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He'll probably be a 6-pounder. You know that. That's how it's going to work out. Yeah. He's probably going to be a little guy.
That's okay.
6-pounder,
That's okay. I got a few moves I could teach you.
I hear you. That's funny, man. Yeah. So, is it you seem? I don't know you on a personal level, but you seem like a gentleman. You don't seem vicious, aggressive. You don't seem mean. You don't seem. But you obviously like the combat nature of wrestling and fighting and football and. Am I correct?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. One of my favorite subjects was like history, and I was always intrigued with like the Roman Empire and like the gladiators and stuff like that. And it's just like, the more I get close to the Bible and the more I get closer to God, it's like wrestling's all in there.
Yeah.
First sport known to man.
Yes.
And I just love it. I love competing.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, that's, obviously. I admire, in a weird way, I admire as you age, it's not always graceful for everyone as you age. I mean, I'm not a woman, but as a man, everything just starts to break down, especially when you're an athlete. I can't imagine being your age and still having the ability to physically fight. I admire that. I mean, you've obviously taken great, care of yourself if you're able to even want to pursue that. And the fact that you still might, that's impressive. I think you're crazy. I mean, I think you're crazy. But I mean, listen, I've always said wrestlers, as intelligent as you may seem, or not just you, but wrestlers in general, successful wrestlers, as intelligent as they may seem, all wrestlers are off the rocker a little bit. I think a little bit.
You got to be crazy. You got to be a little crazy to do these things. I mean, no one just wakes up one day and just. It doesn't take it's not an average person doing that.
Yeah.
You gotta have something a little off, or you gotta have like super high belief in yourself. You gotta dare to dream, create, all that stuff.
I agree. So let's assume it can never happen, but let's just say hypothetically, you've been a football guy, wrestling guy, fight guy. Let's just say it's Super Bowl Sunday and the NCAA Division I Finals are both on at the same time. You can only watch one. What are you watching?
I'm watching the NCAA finals.
Okay.
Because, for one, I'm hoping the Eagles get there, but it's not the case every year.
Right,
I somehow always end up watching both. But, I think I have a better chance of watching the NCAA finals just because I know my team's going to be there and they're going to be competing for a national title.
I get it. Now, do you still consider yourself of having a strong relationship with Coach Sanderson, Cael?
I haven't reached out in a couple of years, but listen, life is a crazy roller coaster. There's been a lot of different changes in my life.
Yeah.
I always reach out to, the wrestlers that are there, wrestlers that are still there, that were used to be there.
You guys are tight?
We support each other.
Yeah, life happens. I get that.
We support each other. I'm always liking, reaching out, hoping the best for them and stuff like that. Same thing with Cael. I saw Casey a couple of years ago in the airport. Him and David, they were going to Vegas, I think, for a tournament or something like that. And I gave him a hug just before he became the Oklahoma State coach.
Right.
So it's always going to be nothing but love. And I have nothing bad to say there just because, the man I am today, get through some of the stuff I've been through, wouldn't be possible without the lessons I learned at that age.
Yeah, it's awesome. Now, I'm going to ask you one final question. In Jimmy Lawson's opinion, and you can't say yourself, who's the greatest New Jersey high school wrestler of all time? Tough one, huh?
It's a tough one.
You on the spot.
I mean, I gotta be the guy. I gotta pick the guy close to home because I always used to pass his trophies in the gyms. I gotta go with Damian Hahn.
Damian Hahn, okay. I can stand by that.
I gotta go with Damian Hahn. I mean, I could choose one of these younger guys, but I'm gonna go with Damian Hahn.
Yeah. I'll go on record, and I think Pete would tell you off camera, that would be who I would pick as New Jersey's greatest wrestler of all time as well.
He's a great man, too. I've met him a couple times during tournaments, him being at Cornell. Well, he was at Cornell at the time. He's a great man, so I definitely, and I've wrestled in his father's tournament, so yeah, Damian Hahn would definitely be my number one.
I love it. Jimmy Lawson, listen, we appreciate you coming on, man. I love the chat. And in the future, if you don't mind, if we reach out to do any more collaborations, are you interested?
Absolutely.
I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Jimmy Lawson.
Attention, wrestling fans, parents, and future state champs. This is your podcast. We're shining a light on the toughest high school New Jersey wrestlers and coaches who are building warriors one takedown at a time. Follow us, like, and subscribe on your favorite platform. Doesn't cost you anything, but it goes a long way to support the show. Don't just watch the journey, be part of it.